guys, it's Nicholas Christakis, Chelsea Football Channel, and I wanted to bring this video to talk about some possible striker changes and possible replacements this season. Of course, I wouldn't say replacements is really the word. I would say number one strikers. Of course, we'll talk about players maybe that are already at the club as well, but I want to also talk about possible guys that could be that number one for the foreseeable future. Provide a few options. That I think two honorable mentions that I feel like are good options, but not the options I want. One sneaky, surprising option that I feel like you guys should go check out, and maybe the club should give a check out to. And then uh, four other options that I feel are the ones that the club will make. The honorable mentions are two players. Vangelis Pavlidis from AZ Alkmaar and Seru Gurasi from Stuttgart. First player is Vangelis Pavlidis, 25-year-old Greek international playing for AZ Alkmaar. He's 6'1", one of these type of bulky strikers who gets in behind and finishes, kind of a poacher. Using a transfer market for most of my, if not all of my information. He's worth 22 million. That's what Transfer Market has listed at. I've seen news saying they want more than 30 million. The reason I only give Pavlidis an honorable mention grade is because he's only been doing this for a very limited amount of time. A player of his, I mean, as you see, he scored 30. He's had 30 appearances, 26 goals. He's played in the starting 11 for every single game. 98% of those minutes have come from the starting 11, and 47% he's part of the goal contributions. The only problem is he's been playing for a very small amount of time. He just recently, I think in the last 2 years, transferred from Willem, a team in the second tier of Dutch football. So this is basically his first main season of Dutch football. So to go from the Dutch league to the Premier League is a pretty giant step up. And well, it's by looking at these metrics, his advanced metrics, you see he's a very good at his non-penalty XG, so he scores well, he even assists well. His pass attempts, he attempts quite a few a game. Not a great pass completion, but as a striker, it's kind of hard to. He does have a lot of progressive passes. He's very good at that. And tackling, he's actually a very advanced tackler, but I guess that comes with your size. The second player I wanted to include as honorable mention is Serhou Guirassy from Stuttgart in the German first tier. So a little bit better of a tier to be playing in and to prove at. He's a little bit taller, I think 6'2", so an inch taller than Vangelis Pavlidis. And on Transfer Market, it does say he is worth 40 million. But I'm pretty sure there is a release clause in his contract, a very cheap one for I think a little bit below 20 million. So I'm not sure exactly the difference between it. As you see by his statistics, 24 appearances in the Bundesliga, he scored 25 goals. So he's scoring more than a goal per game, as you see by his starting 11. He's in the starting 11 for a majority of games. I think he missed some time with injury this season. Again, I think he probably was playing every single game before the injuries. And again, 40% of his goal participation. So again, that has to do part of the injuries as well. But again, it's kind of the same issue with Guirassy. He really hasn't had that. This is his breakout season. He's had transfers, of course, in the past. But this is the one move that he's made so far that he's broken through at. Another thing that kind of scares me is the Bundesliga transition into the Premier League. I just haven't liked how players have translated into the Premier League from the Bundesliga. I mean, you're seeing how Ian Maatsen is playing really well in the Bundesliga, but hasn't really done anything. But he hasn't really gotten the opportunity. So that's something you'll look at as well. His advanced metrics are really good. He's in the 99th percentile for non-penalty goals. He takes a lot of shots. He's a really great passer. That's really what's good. He attempts a lot of passes, but he's a very good pass completion. Not really the amazing at progressive passes. Doesn't really tackle as well as Pavlidis, but he's a finisher. A very interesting option and a one to definitely look at. So I decided, as I said, to choose a surprising player, and a player maybe nobody's heard of, Kevin Denke. He plays for Cercle Bruges in the Jupiler Pro League. On Transfer Market, it says he's worth 13 million. He's 23 years old. He's only 5'9", but don't let that be a scare. He's very physical with his height. He's still very quick. In the Jupiler Pro League season, he scored 23 goals in 28 games. Of course, as you see, he's in the starting 11 majority of the games, plays the most majority of the minutes, and he scored in their participation over 52% of their goals. Of course, as a fan, you're probably sitting there saying, you can't really sign a player from this league. It's so far below the league. I mean, and I think when you look at the top leagues across Europe, the Belgium league has only increased over the coming years. So Kevin Dinky, I still feel like deserves some kind of recognition. As you see, he scores a lot. Most of his goals still non-penalty. His non-penalty XG is good. He shoots a lot per game. Not the most amazing passer in the world, but still, he's still a pure finisher. Takes on players really well. And what it's really intriguing to see is the aerial wins. He's a 74 percentile in aerial wins at 5'9". That is very good. Again, how will that translate when you move to the Prem? You don't know, but it's still a very intriguing player to look at, and I think Kevin Dinky is definitely one that is. So as much as fans aren't going to want me to talk about this man, Romelu Lukaku is still him. He's 30 years old now. He's worth 30 million, it says on transfer market, but I'm pretty sure there is a $37 million release clause in his contract at Chelsea. The way I look at it is still you have a player who's proven to be able to play at the top stage at Chelsea. You're not going to have to pay a penny for him. You're just going to have to pay his ginormous wages. Why not give him another chance? Of course, Lukaku is quite a tall guy. I'm pretty sure he's as well in one of that 6'1" through 6'3" range. Um, as you see in his statistics this season, he hasn't really scored a too much for Roma this season. 10 goals in 28 games. He's played the majority of their minutes. Most of his goals have came in the Europa League this season with 7 goals in 11 games. But again, another guy who's been able to prove it at the top level. So while, players might not, or not players, fans might not want to hear his name again, it's still worth considering. Looking at his advanced statistics, he's not really, as you see, he's not really been the greatest when it comes to his percentages and everything. He's still not bad. Most of his goals still coming from non-penalty XG. He's still good at assisting, really good percentile there. Hasn't really won too many of his aerial, only 51%. That's not the greatest. His passing attempts and completion aren't amazing. But again, this is a guy, I think when you put him in the right scenario, I think this guy will flourish. And I think that Lukaku still has to be named amongst the top ideal strikers for this Chelsea football team next season. Among the options we talked about, we haven't spent a big bucks on a big guy, and this is the man, Victor Gyökeres from Sporting CP, Sporting Lisbon in the Liga de Portugal. They on transfer markets say he's worth 55 million, but you've seen reports that say he's worth upper of almost 80 to 100 million. The 25-year-old, I mean, of course, he's played for Brighton in the past. It didn't work out there. They messed up there. Obviously, when he went from Coventry, he played really well, and then obviously made his move to Sporting. He's 25. He's 6 foot to 6'2", anywhere in that range. The Sweden international has had an outstanding season this year in the Liga de Portugal. 24 goals in 29 games, 10 assists, so he's contributed at all levels. Him and Harry Kane are basically competing with who's going to be the top scorer or top contributor. Um, as you see from his metrics, he's incredible. He's progressive carries, take-ons, touches, progressive passes, all in the 99th percentile. He's a great shooter, shoots a lot of game. Assists for a striker are outstanding. I mean, you could say he does an aerial win well for a guy of his height, but again, a player of his standard, a way he has played, it's hard to pass up on a player like him. I don't know if he'll be able to contribute with Chelsea. If Pochettino can't do it, who can? So the most obvious option and obviously the most expensive option, Victor Osimhen from Napoli, another player from this Serie A. Again, in that 25-year-old range, obviously worth 110 million, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be more than that because I think of his current release clause, the Nigerian international has proven it over the last few years. This season, a little inconsistent, but I think injuries again have destroyed his season. 13 goals in 21 games. Of course, he scored so many goals last season. Growing up a Chelsea fan, it almost seems too good to be true to bring this man in. But would you rather go out and spend the big bucks on this guy or bring in more options? Again, 50%, only 58% of the games he started in the starting 11. But again, that's due to injuries. when you look at his statistics this season, 80%, 80 percentile in non penalty goals. Again, not a guy who's an amazing assister, but he's really good with his touches. Um, Again, this is a guy that is just a pure goal scorer. And I think with the right players around him, I think the Palmer connection into Osimhen is just too good to, it's just so good. Again, I'd love to bring this guy in, but is it worth bringing him in for how much money he's going to be? Tough question. So the last option I came up with was Jonathan David, the striker from Lille in France. The Canadian international has scored quite a few goals with them as well as Lille. He's worth 50 million on transfer market. He's currently 24 years old. As you see, 17 goals in 30 games this season, playing the majority of the games as well in the Conference League. He's scored a few as well. Guy's a proven goal scorer. He's done it for the last few seasons. So if you're looking for consistency, he's done it. Um, as you see, he's played the majority of his games. 87% of them he started. Almost half of the goal participation has been from him. Um, as you see, kind of the same non-penalty goals per game as a person like Lukaku, but what you don't get Lukaku is that pass completion, the progressive passes, and again, the tackles. Very good stuff to see. The fact that he's going to score well, he's going to pass well, and he's going to tackle well. For a guy who could play the first four up front through that left, the middle, the right, and up top, it's very important to see those kind of numbers. And David, I feel like 50 million could be a pretty good purchase. Those are all the options I thought of and I came up with. Let me know what you guys think and maybe give me some options of who you guys think who could be the possible replacements. I think those guys, I think at least, no one, not everybody works out. But I think, a handful of those guys would be the right decision. Any of those guys I'd be quite happy with, especially Kevin Denke. Make sure you guys go look that guy up. He's a beast. But again, thank you guys for watching. Let me know again who you guys think is the best option. The match preview will probably be out tomorrow once they give out the injury report. Talk to you guys then. See you.